The Insane Legacy of Arknights Doctor. This video is actually one that I'm super interested about because I just feel like we don't know enough about the Doctor, and even after reacting to the story of Babel on stream the other day, we now know why he has amnesia, which that is cool, so he doesn't feel like the typical amnesia gotcha MC, even though it still does, because they all have amnesia. Same thing with when the Sarkaz truck goon, oh my god, truck goon hit me, same shit, right? But besides that, I want to know more about what's going on. And I'm not so much worried about the main story, since we know he's going to learn about the world again and gain new things to love and new biases and XYZ. I want to know who the Doctor really was before all this. Was he just a tool being manipulated by the Priestess, or did he have his own mind? Was he his own being? Like, what is really going on with him? But after all that, let's get into this video. Let's get it.
Is one of the most complex characters ever written in a gacha game. When you first start the game, you never believe this amnesiac self-insert has more backstory than the entire lore of most AAA titles. With Enfield on the horizon, I think it's important to understand what this man has done, especially when comparing him to the Administrator. I'll be referring to the Doctor as he.
Because I'm about to say the Administrator is a completely different entity, but they are also from, you get me? They're also from the same race, I would assume, right? I'm assuming. I definitely think I need to like get into some more lore videos on the Administrator, because Enfield comes out in a couple days, and I'll be fair, Enfield's about to take over my life.
That's my interpretation based on how he's portrayed in the story and the nature of his relationships with important female characters. Some clearly more emotionally driven than others. What makes the Doctor so compelling are his flaws despite his extreme intelligence. He is, without question, the smartest man alive. But being smart doesn't mean being right. This isn't a story about a flawless super commander leading his people from victory to victory, but about what happens when intelligence out.
Is there a game like that though? Is there a game like that? I'm just gonna ask. Is there a game where there's like a super intelligent commander who's just blitzing everything with relative ease? And this is for my brain rotters. You know, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a little brain rot game. There's nothing wrong with playing a game on AFK mode. So I'm asking for those guys, you know, like maybe it's like 3 a.m. you're laying in bed, you want to open your phone and play something because you can't sleep, or you just want to play something to turn your brain off after a stressful day instead of jumping into another stressful game. But shout out to the bros who like stressful games like League and Valorant and CSGO even after a stressful day. There's nothing wrong with enjoying stressful games either.
Outpaces morality. This is a highly condensed retelling of Arknight's greatest character.
Perfect. Oracle's origin.
The Doctor is far from an ordinary being. He is a remnant of the predecessor civilization, a hyper-advanced society that predates modern races and helped jumpstart major projects on Terra, such as Civilized Eterna and, of course, Originium. He, alongside another character who I won't name just yet, was one of the founders of Project Originium, the very root cause of many of the tragedies we see in modern Arknights. And as some of you know, there are a lot of them. This naturally raises the question, why did these projects begin in the first place? That's where the story dips into cosmic horror. Explaining it in full is outside the scope of this video, but the short version is this. During their travels through the cosmos, the predecessors discovered a light that unraveled the fabric of existence itself.
Assumed to be the observers.
This thing was clearly not a natural phenomenon of the universe, so the predecessors went to work, searching for any possible way to counter it. That research ultimately led Oracle and his colleagues to create what they believed was their best defense against the light, Originium. By this point, the predecessor civilization was already collapsing, forcing the Doctor in.
You know what I just thought about too? The fact that he's using like the infield stuff here. You know how fucking dope it's gonna be to walk around and like feel the world building? Pause. Niggas is not trying to feel shit like that, but you get what I'm saying. To actually feel that shit. To like be like, oh, I can smell the snow. I can taste the atmosphere, you know, because I feel like the storytelling in Arknights is fire, and the level design is actually also super amazing. I'm not gonna lie, like some of the levels like blow my mind because there's so much shit happening that as a new player I was just not expecting to ever happen in those levels. But being able to walk through the world like this is also gonna provide another experience, another layer on top of the things they've already built, and this is gonna be so clutch.
To a role that went beyond mere survival. He became a senior researcher and possibly one of the last true decision makers left. Yeah, this guy had a weight of an entire civilization and the fate of the cosmos resting on
That
his
thorn skin is
shoulders.
tough.
That burden goes a long way toward explaining his cold, calculated demeanor, which we'll return to later. It's time to fulfill the promise of revealing what many would consider the Doctor's former romantic partner. I'm sure in such a dire situation, not much romance was had at the time, but you gotta understand that her dedication to you is real. She will stop at nothing to get you back. This character is none other than the infamous Priestess. The game takes a shitload of time.
ERTS. That's funny because I see that logo in the game all the time. I didn't know that it stood for her, Priestess. I fuck with that. Now, this is where I'm going to self-insert myself into the story like I'm the Doctor himself, right? If I was in this world, and we're going to have to talk about the story of Babel a little bit. If I was in this world, right, and ultimately I had to choose between Teresa and the dream of my beloved, the one that I was already in love with, and it's also my dream, I think my decisions would be pretty simple to make for me in that case, right? Like I'm like the kind of guy, like if I set a goal, I would like to strive to achieve that goal. No matter how long that goal will take, I would love to achieve my goals. Like, now it's different because this is world ending stuff. This is like not like I want to bench press 225. It's not that kind of goal. It's like crazy, right? Like, do we let the civilization collapse to see what's going to happen with Originium? Or do we forget about the past and move to the present? I think my goal would still be ultimately, like, for me, the most important. And I asked this question in another video, and there were some comments that were like, yeah, if it was me, I would have just chased my dreams. Because I mean, my dream is my dream. And if I can achieve it, why not? Right. But there's other people who sympathize with, the new world, Terra, and everything that the people are going through. So again, you guys let me know what you would pick. But personally, I think I have to lock it in for my goals and dreams and aspirations because I'm only one individual,
Trying to finally reveal her, but once it does, you start to realize something unsettling. There was another main character all along. While the Doctor lost his memories to Amnesia, Priestess represents those memories, a singular, uncompromising goal to counter the light, or at the very least, survive it. She worked directly with Oracle to develop Originium, which she views as the pinnacle of creation. With Originium, you can effectively play God, and God is exactly what they believed they needed to stop the light. As of now, Priestess is written as a villain due to her complete refusal to compromise. Her ideology is simple: save everyone at any cost, even if that cost means sacrifices, sometimes on the scale of millions.
Well, here's the thing, right? That's honestly really a true and tried method that the world has gone through. That's why I think this game's lore hits harder, because a lot of this stuff is based off of, like, they use real history mixed into the fiction, right? Even with the way they name the countries, some of the things that they wars and things that they go through, they're really using and leaning on that real life aspect. And in real life, sometimes when war happens, people there's a lot of losses, but some of those losses end up being the reason why there's like a win for whatever side is winning, like. And I'm not saying that war is great and sacrificing people. That's not the point that we're making here. I'm just saying, like, it's a very easy parallel to, like, see. And I think, like, you can even say, like, again, it's a gotcha game, and it's not the typical self-insert MC kind of gotcha game, right? It's not, because there's multiple characters who become the main character, and there's multiple perspectives that you're actually seeing things through. So they do open this up more than, like, the typical, like, hey, I don't remember anything. I'm him. I'm him. You get me? So I do understand that, but I really feel like if your ultimate goal is to save everyone, that's impossible, right? Like, you can't save everyone. That's like very hard to do. Like, maybe that's a pessimistic way to think about it, but like, even if you tried to save everyone, everyone wouldn't listen to you. Everyone wouldn't want to go along with your plan, right? So sometimes you have to stick to your plan because that plan might just be for you. Maybe you only save you. In the midst of you trying to save everyone, maybe you can only save the people close to you. Maybe you don't save anyone. Just a little ramble, a little
This
rant.
mirrors the Doctor's own pre-amnesia beliefs. Save the future, even if the present must burn. We've already touched on Originium in the last
Originium.
chapter as both the solution
Originium.
to and the end of entire civilizations. The first Originium was created on Terra during the TCAS period, roughly 13,000 years ago. As you know, the original intention was to create an energy source capable of assimilating matter into data, essentially transporting everything into another dimension known as the assimilated universe, where they could hide from the all-destroying light. After the first seeds of Originium were planted, the Doctor and Priestess entered stasis, intending to sleep for thousands of years until Originium had fully consumed the planet. However, during their stasis, the light appeared out of nowhere and swept across Terra, wiping out nearly everything. Likely due to various precautions and smaller predecessor projects, the light failed to completely annihilate the planet, but this forced Oracle to awaken far earlier than planned and initiate his contingency measures. AMA-10, an advanced life form created by the Doctor and Priestess, was given the name Kal'tsit and instructed to find herself. A vague command to say the least, but one Kal'tsit interpreted as save this planet and do some crazy shit while we sleep. And this still wasn't the end.
And again, like, I do like, because I have to say this, right? I do like the amount of freedom this game seems to provide. But isn't that kind of a dumb, we created you. Now go find yourself. Find yourself doing what? Why not give her a better mission than find yourself, right? Like, find yourself. I'm going to slumber for thousands of years. Find yourself. But I get it. And it also kind of parallels the whole thing with him having the amnesia. They want everyone to build their own mindset, to learn about the world from their own perspective and form their own ideas. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just kind of funny. We made you. Go find yourself. Bye-bye.
End of Doctor's failures. Due to errors in his calculations, Originium became a planetary cancer. While it succeeded as a near limitless energy source, it also gave rise to life. The TCAS, which were the natives of the planet, were these little stupid-looking creatures, and they used Originium to transform themselves into more of the image of the predecessors. The first of the TCAS to transform was the Far Chaser when it came into contact with Civilite Eterna, the Black Crown. This was the first step towards intelligent life that would eventually evolve into the Terrans of today and ultimately become the
So essentially, the creatures on this planet transformed into what they are now because of Originium. So realistically, he is like the father and the priestess is the mother of all these people, essentially, like theoretically, right? And that's hilarious, right? So they gain their form and sentience from Originium, but at the same time, it's killing them. But that's also kind of like life, right? You die anyway. As you age, you die anyway. Like, you can't even...
reason behind the Doctor's betrayal of his own ideals.
Sarkaz. So we're going to talk about Babel now.
Thousands of years later, long after the TCAS life forms had evolved into the Sarkaz and beyond, Kal'tsit found herself at her wits' end. Over millennia, she had worked tirelessly to ensure evolution progressed smoothly. But it was finally time to awaken the creator himself. This is where the Doctor meets Teresa for the first time. She is known as the King of Sarkaz, a life form deeply connected to Originium and the assimilated universe. The black crown she wears above her head is, in fact, a model of a long-lost predecessor project, Civilite Eterna. You can imagine the Doctor's confusion when he encounters an Originium byproduct who understands the assimilated universe better than he does in some sense. The Sarkaz are direct descendants of Originium.
I mean, why would he be confused by that, though? You've been asleep for 1,000 years. Like, you don't know what the new changes are at all, right? Like, it wouldn't be strange to come to the world in 1,000 years and be like, what the fuck is going on here, right? Like, what is really happening here? To me, that just seems very normal, but I might be nitpicking, but to me that just seems like normal. Like, you wake up 1,000 years later, wow, these creatures, wow. But I guess if you feel like you're the highest intellect being, and you are, you should just understand everything from seeing it at a glance, right? Potentially.
Originium, and at the same time, living proof of its corruption. Through Teresa and Kal'tsit, the Doctor is forcibly drawn into Sarkaz politics, learning firsthand about their culture, their suffering, and the horrifying fate they are doomed to inherit.
Lord of Fiends.
Doctor quickly learns Teresa is an idealist, but that doesn't stop him from admiring her. Her vision is genuinely noble: to unite the Sarkaz, cure oripathy, and bring an end to endless war. But the Doctor had already calculated the opposite. More accurately, he knew that halting the evolution of Originium was a logistical impossibility. For the ultimate goal of survival required the suffering of these people. He could search for a cure to erypathy as long as he wanted, but in the end, none of it would truly matter. He wanted to believe in Teresa. He wanted to believe that what she was doing meant something. In reality, he simply allowed her to act freely until the moment he decided to proceed with his own mission. Cultsit suspected this outcome from the beginning and feared what she herself would do when the time came to choose a side. And finally, exactly as he had calculated, Teresa was betrayed by her own people. When the moment came, when he could have saved her without hesitation, the doctor instead stood by and watched as she was murdered by assassins. A moment he swore.
I'm not gonna lie, that shit was ridiculous. Like, actually seeing that when I was watching the reaction for the Babel shit, I was like, holy shit. Holy fuck. But I think that's what sold me on the game, was that storyline. Because to be fair, when I first tried to play the game fucking couple months ago, and even a couple months before that, I opened it and I was like, I have to read all this? No voice acting? Maybe I'm spoiled, because like I said, I play a lot of single player games. Honestly, I play a shit ton of games. Like, whatever I'm in the mood for when I'm offline, I just hop in and play it. And I was like, damn, I have to read? There's no, like, because even if it's like voice acting in another language, it still makes me feel like the story is pulling me along, right? Like, so even if I'm reading it, I still feel like, I'm really progressing. But when I was like, I got to read a visual novel with 8 billion words, and I've only fought one thing one time, and I don't know what's going on, I wasn't like completely sold. But I gave it another shot, and I watched some infill lore, because I was going to play infill no matter what. And I was like, okay, we definitely have to lock this shit in. We definitely got to lock this shit in. But the story of Babel, that one was really like, I was like, holy shit. All of this happened, and the doctor betrayed her? Damn, doctor, you're a bitch. You're a bitch. But then not really, like, But, I was feeling very emotional when I watched that part. So it was really good.
He would never forget nor forgive himself for.
But I have to say that I was feeling very emotional, but I don't feel any emotions. Like, that's why we have to let everyone know I have zero emotions, but I was feeling very emotional when I watched that part. Feel me?
After the attack was suppressed at the cost of her life, he appeared before her, crushed by guilt as he witnessed her final moments. Teresa had always known this was inevitable. She too suspected the doctor's betrayal, for the most knowledgeable man alive when it came to Originium could never have been on Terra without reason. With the last strength she had left, she took the doctor's hands and wiped his memory, his knowledge of Originium, the light, his mission, and Priestess, just as he once instructed Cultsit to find her.
I absolutely hate that, though. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely hate that he lost his memory, because isn't there bigger threats that he knows about and that he no longer now remembers? Right? And does he get his memory back at some point in time? I'm just going to keep asking that until I see somebody answer in the comments, right? Does he not get his memories back? Because, I mean, even though you wipe someone's memories, there could always be something that could trigger the brain and, maybe the memories come back. But I really just don't like that she wiped his memories. And I know why she did it. I get it. But it's just not my favorite part of the story, right? Because I don't want you to be biased about the things from the past, but we want you to be biased about everything you see when you wake up. It's almost like fucking hypocritical in a way, right? Like, you don't want him to remember his past because you don't want him to make the same choice again. But in reality, you're leaving him a choice without leaving him a choice, right? Like, you're taking his memories, so he can't use that as an anchor point. So now he has to learn about the world and everything all over again. It kind of like, I just don't like that part. But I mean, it is what it is. And it is still good writing. Like, it's still good story writing and good world building and shit. But I just personally, it just makes me so mad. I would much prefer to wake up with my memories instead of waking up with no memories. You know how horrible it probably feels to wake up and not remember anything? It has to be awful.
Teresa
Whoa,
wanted
where am
him
I?
to do the same. The aftermath of Babel's collapse and the death of the king of Sarkaz was utterly devastating. Sarkaz from across the land mourned their fallen ruler, some consumed by grief, others by violent vengeance, W being a prime example. With his memories erased, the doctor fell into a coma and was once again placed into the sarcophagus where he slept. Only a handful of people knew what truly happened that fateful day. one of them being Kaltsit. She had desperately hoped the doctor would save Teresa. His betrayal hurt her more than anyone else's. For years of planning and operation under Babel came to an abrupt halt because of that single decision. One vital
But here's the thing, right? I think being idealistic is always a W, but you need to use your logic, right? If all the Sarkaz had been doing is war and mercenary and war and mercenary, what made you think you were going to be the one to change that? Right? And then you and your twin brother were on opposite sides, even though he wanted to help you. Like he went to the military commission, you started Babel. Like it almost just feels like everything was set up in the way, which it probably was because it's a story and it's written, right? But it almost feels like it was all set up in a way for you to just suffer like this just to wipe the doctor's memory, which is kind of like whatever. But it's like if you wanted things to change for the better, I feel like there's just so many ways, and we could say that, but I mean, like in real life, we know how it goes in real life. People be wanting to change shit. People will get on the internet yapping about shit. Make a change, and they'll never leave their computer to help make a change, right? So I get it. I get it. But this shit was just so traumatizing. Like, first, why did he betrayed her, which was super terrible. Like, I hated that moment. And then she wiped his memory, which I also hated. I was just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, y'all, this shit is just happening and it's just not a good feeling. It just wasn't a feel good ending. But I guess that's the point of the story. Despair, suffer. Make sure when you guys play this game, you despair and suffer too. Don't have too much fun. Like, if you're a new player, don't have too much fun. Make sure you suffer. Only use 2-star units, okay?
character we have yet to fully discuss is Amia, a young Kantas girl rescued by the doctor from a tragic accident that claimed her family. He and Teresa raised Amia as if she were their own. More importantly, Amia was present when the assassins infiltrated Babel. She was there to witness the death of her guardian. Knowing her time was short, Teresa transferred the power of the Black Crown.
Was Teresa her actual guardian? Or was it the doctor? Because the doctor saved her, right? The doctor is the one who pulled her out of the rubble when she was dying, right? So, like, somebody make sure, like, explain that for me, or is that like a detail that's like not too relevant? Like, let me know. But I feel like the doctor would be her guardian, right? Technically, he's the one who saved her. Teresa didn't pull her out of the rubble, right? But I don't know. Maybe they like I said, I didn't play this event. I only watched the video. Maybe there's just like a bunch of interactions between them two that I haven't seen. But hey.
Down to Amia long before the incident took place. At such a young and fragile age, Amia was chosen to become the first outblood king of Sarkaz and the new wielder of Civilite Eterna. Teresa had no choice
must be from
but
the
to
anime,
trust
right?
that the doctor wouldn't betray Amia.
She pulled out a
as
sword?
well,
This shit look
and
tough.
she was wise enough to know that he treated her differently from everyone else. It was a gamble that would condemn Amia to immense pain, a torturous life, but there was no other option left.
Was there? Was there no other option left? Was there actually? Like, can you guys think of any other options that could have played out in this scenario that would have gave a better outcome? Or do y'all think this is the bottom line, best scenario for everyone involved?
Years later, the doctor is reawakened from his slumber. This is where the game truly begins, introducing us to Rhodes Island, Originium, and the wider world of Arknights. At this point, Originium appears to be nothing more than a scourge upon the land, a virus to be eradicated. The Doctor is meant to be completely unaware of what it truly represents, which you can imagine would leave a certain someone very displeased. Rhodes Island is essentially a rebranded Babel, an organization dedicated to finding a cure for oropathy, while also fielding a roster of elite combatants to survive in a hostile world. Being freed from his original mission fundamentally changes the Doctor's once cold demeanor. He awakens weaker, but still unmistakably brilliant, a commander capable of navigating nearly any situation. Operators who knew him before often describe him as a soft monster, someone who now genuinely cares for his operators, feels guilt when lives are lost, yet remains willing.
But the thing is, from what we had seen in the Babel story, he was still feeling all those emotions. He was just making the logical choices that fit the Oracle title, right? Because he was in turmoil the whole time he was making those decisions, right? They even said when he became the ghost of Babel, where you only would see him doing research and you never really saw him outside of that, right? Because he was sad and shit. Like, so he was always feeling his emotions. So they like that's why it's like a little bit like confusing to me. Like he was always feeling his emotions, so like he was always like that. He just made the logical choices to chase the goal that was his initial goal. But now you guys removed his initial goal so that he can pursue these individuals who are on the screen right now to pursue their goal.
To make the decisions that save or end lives when necessary. Amnesia didn't erase the doctor's nature, it only dulled the blade.
Yeah, it's trash. We don't like dull blades around here. We want
We won't go into detail of all his travels with Rhodes Island, since that's basically a recount of the entire main story. What matters here isn't where he went, but who he became along the way. Over time, the doctor begins to embody Teresa's ideals, where once he calculated outcomes coldly, he now actively chooses to save people from devastation, even when doing so is inefficient or dangerous. With every major conflict and turning point, fragments of his memories resurface. But what's important is that he never reverts to what he once was.
Okay, so thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. You answered my question. So as the game progresses, he does get his memories back. Right. So what was the point of wiping them? Because we need to make him a softer guy, a more caring guy, even though he was already caring and emotional, but he just made the harder choices, whether they were good or bad. Or is it just like a plot device to keep the story rolling, essentially? Like, what are we thinking here? And you guys have to let me know, because you guys have consumed probably more of this story than I have at this point, right? So like, let me know what y'all true feelings are. Y'all are probably current in the story, so y'all know where it's actually landing at right now. But I just feel like it's so 50-50 for me on this specific character. And I know he's not this is not a power fantasy game, and that's completely fine. Every game doesn't need to be a power fantasy game. But it's just like, dude, wiping a motherfucker memory so that they could be biased and leading towards your side because you thought they were biased to their previous thoughts and past. It just feels like one of those like whirlwinds to me. Like it's just like it's the same shit, right? Like
even as he remembers more, he remains committed to that ideal. That said, two massive problems still loom over everything he does. First, the doctor still doesn't know the full truth about Originium, the predecessors, or the light itself. His understanding is incomplete, built on fragments and consequences rather than origins. Second,
and that is like my biggest fucking pet peeve. If he's supposed to be the highest intellect level, right? Wiping his memory does put y'all at a disadvantage, because imagine one of these things show up before he has any full knowledge of them. His plan is going to have to be adjusted at that moment for that. But if he had his previous memories on those things, he could have been putting things in place to make sure he never ends up in a situation again where he has to betray somebody he cares about.
His former partner has yet to reveal herself.
She's still alive?
And if she ever does, more like when, it would spell disaster for everything Rhodes Island stands for. Oh,
I can't wait for that.
And as a bonus, Teresa is still technically alive, and she has absolutely nothing to say to us. Slowly but surely, the doctor begins to regain Kalsit's trust.
So you were telling me he had her assassinated, she doesn't die, she wipes his memories, and then doesn't come back and interact with anyone. Bro, all right, bro.
Not sudden, and it's never unconditional, but she comes to believe that this version of the doctor will not repeat the same mistake. At the same time, he grows closer to Amia. What began as protection evolves into genuine partnership, and through his actions, he earns the deep respect of Rhodes Island's operators, not because he commands them, but because he listens and bears the weight of their decisions alongside them. Before long, the doctor's name becomes infamous across Terra. Wherever Rhodes Island appears, the situation turns in their favor. The Chernobog incident is resolved, and Reunion's most feared leader is defeated with a surprisingly small force. Increasingly powerful and dangerous operators willingly place their lives in his hands.
I'm not gonna lie, they got the little tights on and shit, man. You know what I'm saying? A little tall girl, you know what I'm saying? They really doing it.
Even massive organizations begin to regard him as a formidable ally rather than a pawn. Eventually, the Doctor plays a
Londinium,
decisive role in stopping the war
Duke of Wellington,
in
Duke of
Londinium.
Castle,
With the involvement
Duke of
of
Windermere.
both Teresa and Teresa's, the Sarkaz are finally freed from the assimilated universe. This act lays the groundwork for a new Cosdell, a place the Sarkaz can finally call home. At this point, the bond between the Doctor, Amia, and
Okay, so I'm gonna assume, oh, these are like chapters of the main story. I'm gonna like assume that like, what the fuck? Was that like a huge spoiler for me? Because so Teresa and her brother end up coming back together and making a city? Okay, let's keep going. I won't even think about it too much.
Its peak. Khalsa believes with complete certainty that if the Doctor is ever forced to choose again, he will choose what she believes is the right decision, that he will not lead them astray.
Isn't that also funky as fuck though? Like, if you think he will choose my decision, not his own decision, my decision. Is he not allowed to choose what he wants?
And then,
Like, let me stop. Let's continue.
Priestess returns.
Yeah, this is giving me a lot of like
The return
spoilers.
of Priestess, contrary to what certain fanatics on Twitter might suggest, was not a welcome one. Now, the way her return was handled is questionable, aggressive even. Khalsa more or less threw hands before anyone attempted a proper conversation. And yes, I personally believe, as one great philosopher once said, that conversation is the cornerstone of evolution. But we'll
Valid.
set my opinions aside for now. Rhodes Island believed they were prepared for Priestess's return. They were gravely mistaken. No one was ready for the cataclysmic shift she would bring to the landship, let alone to the world itself. The Doctor had already steeled his resolve. Though, again, I can't help but feel a sit-down podcast might have saved everyone a lot of trouble. The woman he once found comfort now stood in direct opposition to him and his friends. He knows Priestess isn't inherently evil, yet he cannot comprehend her absolute refusal to abandon the mission. Long ago, the Doctor calculated that any path outside the Originium project was impossible. Survival demanded it. Priestess still fully believes in that conclusion. But that calculation was made lifetimes ago, and things have changed. New possibilities now exist. Civilite Eterna has awakened under Amia's control. The Doctor has unified a powerful coalition of like-minded individuals. Terra itself has proven capable of resisting fate in ways no one anticipated. Terra is clearly special, and the Doctor believes this. Hiding within the assimilated universe won't stop the light from continuing its destruction. Perhaps the better option is to confront it directly, using the resources and unity they've built on Terra. If Oripathy could cease its destructive course and instead become a force of unification, the chances of victory might be higher than anyone once believed. Nothing is certain, of course. We don't even fully understand how the light works. It may be incomprehensible even to the greatest minds in the universe. But at this point, the Doctor has gone too far to turn back. He would rather die trying than hide away for eternity. After all, even eternity is no guarantee, and players are clearly meant to agree with this sentiment, because what is living if not existing in reality?
Yeah, but what is living when your choices aren't your own, right? Like, what is living when everyone's manipulating you with their emotions, right? Like, what is living when you have to deal with that kind of stuff? I feel like living is freedom of mind, freedom of state. Even if you're in the worst circumstances, if you have the faculties to control your own choices or attempt to, I think that's like living, right? It's like, and we could say some people are biased. Of course they are. Duh. That's how life is. When you grow up a certain way or you go through certain things, you're going to be a little biased. But being open-minded does negate that a lot. But I just feel like the story is just too interesting. He meets his ex baby mama, his ex bae, and instead of conversating, Shorty starts to fight first. Does it even make sense? I mean, I guess it's a video game, so it does make sense, and it makes it a very cool like interaction. Like, oh shit, she's here. Now we got a box. But it would be cool to also like have a convo and like figure it out. And then like, you know, if the conversation doesn't work, then I guess it's time to throw some uppercuts, right? Like, duh. But you know, let's see what Infield's about. Let's see, chapter 9. Let's get it.
This brings us to the question of Enfield, assuming it's not a spin-off, that is. If Enfield is a direct sequel, we're left asking what became of the Doctor and Rhodes Island? What became of Priestess and the Light? Many, many years have passed, and with some operators returning as a different version of their old selves and Rhodes Island clearly being mentioned, it only raises more questions. It's not just asking if the Doctor is still alive, it's more so asking if the Doctor won. Then again, it's a lot more gray than a simple win or lose situation. Of course, we cannot forget about Amia. Did she continue walking the path Teresa set her on, or was the weight of the Black Crown too great, cutting her journey short? The Doctor in Rhodes Island has so much more story to tell. The legacy is nowhere near over, which makes it all the more impressive. Thank you for watching. I certainly don't see myself as an expert on Arknights lore, but seeing as nobody has recently made a video dedicated to the Doctor's life despite the closing of Enfield's release made me want to, take up the mantle.
No, W video, bro. W video, bro, for sure. W video for sure. But it's just like there's a lot to think about because again, it's a live service game. So it's like Knights is not ending, it's gonna continue. So I feel like Enfield being a direct continuation would be kind of crazy, no? Because eventually we would catch up to the point where the story from this would maybe touch Enfield, right? Or maybe not, you never know. It could be an alternate universe. It could be another planet in the same universe years later. It could be another side of the story from a different perspective of other oracles or observers or whatever, which all that to me I think is really cool. But I think my biggest pet peeve is like, why'd you wipe Bro's memory? Like, why the fuck did you wipe Bro's memory? Like, we didn't let me stop complaining about that. It's part of the plot. This shit is a W for sure though. But if you guys made it to the end of the video, hit that like button, subscribe. Please join the Discord and drop things that you want me to react to, whether it's Arknights lore, Nikkei lore, whatever lore for gacha games you want to see me react to or talk about or comment on, you can definitely drop it in the reaction section. I also will be doing a stream on Saturday where we will be looking at some of the guys in the Discord's runs on different ISs or boss runs, so we can kind of like see what they're doing, so I can see other people's perspectives as they're playing the game. Just some quick knowledge, I guess, good knowledge for everybody, maybe like newer players like me who don't understand all the mechanics because they didn't play all these events that the mechanics are coming from. But yeah, hit that like button, subscribe. Yeah, join the Discord. Peace.